Hello friends, this is Stonewarden, back with episode 5 of our Let's Play Final Fantasy XI series. And as we open the episode, we find ourselves with 3 jobs, Warrior, Dancer, and Thief, capped at level 50, because when you create a character in Final Fantasy XI, the highest you can take any particular job is level 50. The level cap for the game is 99, but what happens is there are quests every 5 levels above level 50 so that you can increase your level cap there. So these are called limit breaks, and this is a Japanese game. In Japanese it's called Genkai. And so LB1 or G1 is a quest called In Defiant Challenge, and we get that quest from the gentleman here named Maat. I've always pronounced it Matt. I don't know if it's because of the double A, it's something else, but just for ease in my mind, I've always pronounced it Matt. So he gives us the quest In Defiant Challenge. Okay, and that flags the quest. The request is 3 of these items: ancient papyrus, clump of Exoray mold, and a chunk of bomb coal. Now, initially there was only one way to do the quest. That was to farm the mobs that drop those specific items, and that was tough at level 50. So because these are around level 50 mobs, and so you usually had to get either a higher level person or a party to help you out with it. It's a little bit easier to do it that way now since we have trusts, and we can sort of we can farm mobs that are our level without too much issue. They are still a little bit of pain to get the drop if you don't have a good treasure hunter, but we do. So the other option, they added a few years ago some little points, little question mark points in those same areas where those mobs spawn, that you can just tap the points and get an item. And you have to hit all 3 to get the item for that zone. That's a great way to sneak around if you're unable to get the drop. My goal is to start off fighting the mobs to try to get the drop. Hopefully we can get lucky on those and not have to run around and click a bunch of points. But either way, whether we get the drops directly from the mobs themselves or whether we end up clicking the points, the question mark points, we're going to get these items, bring those back to Matt, and that will raise our level cap to 55. One of the 3 zones we need to visit is the LDM Necropolis, and that is reached through Battaglia Downs, which is right next to Jeuno, so we'll start here. The optimal entrance is right at I and J10, which is right outside of the zone line for Jeuno. So probably the least favorite of the zones to try to get these drops from, because it requires going in here and fighting undead, but since it's the closest, I'll start here first. And this is one of the reasons that I wanted to unlock Dancer and level Dancer, is because it saves a lot of money and time for getting around these zones, because at level 25 Dancer gets Spectral Jig, which gives you both sneak and invisible at the same time. Be careful with Spectral Jig, it wears off quicker than other forms of sneak and invisible. However, it makes it incredibly easy to get around these zones without having to spend a ton of money on oils and prism powders. So the target is the Lich, and hopefully we'll get lucky with some of the drops. And there's the Papyrus on the first mob. So thank you, RNG. It's nice to get lucky there. The next up on the list is Garlage Citadel, and since I've already been there and grabbed the survival guide, I'll just use that to warp there. If you don't have the book, it's not too far from Jeuno, so quick ride. Now, if you haven't spent any time in the Citadel in the present, keep in mind Wings of the Goddess has us here in the past as well, but in the present it's in pretty bad shape, and there are 3 banishing gates. And originally these gates, you need 4 people to stand on a switch at the same time, and that will open the gate. So there used to be a lot of asking for help to try to get 3 other people to stand on the switches so that we could get through the banishing gates. A few years ago they added a little key item that we can collect, and that's called a pouch of weighted stones, and that allows us just to go through the banishing gates by ourselves. So going to grab that pouch of weighted stones first, and then head over to banishing gate number 1 because the mobs we're looking for are behind that. And the weighted stones are near the entrance. So to find those, we come south, straight through the first intersection. Careful not to fall in the holes. We've got the sneak and invisible warning, fantastic. So we drop invisible pretty quickly and grab the weighted stones. Alright, now we're going to head around to banishing gate number 1, which if you've been following along, you've seen because I did some leveling right in front of that first banishing gate. So that's to the east. And then to the south. When we get to this big room here at I-9, these are the 4 plates, the switches that people used to have to stand on. And no longer. So we drop invisible and just click the gate, and the stones opens it for us. From here we just head around south and then east, and that'll take us into the basement area. And as you come into this little basement area, it looks like a cave. You come east and then south and then east and then north again. And then there are 2 rooms where these bombs, they're called explosures, spawn, and these are the mobs that we want to farm. So hopefully we'll get just as lucky on these fellas as we did the liches first mob. Keep in mind, however, that bombs do aggro by sight and magic, so we're not going to cast any magic because we're on thief. However, it is a little difficult to grab one without the others seeing. So ranged attack or some other kind of ability is a good bet there. Also problematic with bombs, especially fighting bombs at or near your own level, is that they can use an ability called self-destruct, and that does area of effect damage proportional to the amount of hit points that they have. So if for some reason they use it early on in the fight, it can kill you, which means depending on how unlucky we get, we may end up getting killed and then coming back. However, if they use Berserk, that just makes the fight go faster and everybody's happier. So Just like that. Ouch. And we're back again. So, risk mitigation strategies for self-destruct. You can be out of range. You can have a ton of magic defense bonus on your gear. Of course, this is pretty low level, so we don't have any of that stuff. Or you can have a stun. And since we don't have a stun or any magic defense bonus gear, what I would suggest is either being able to get out of range or staying out of range. And if the self-destruct destroys your trusts, no big deal, we'll just summon some more. So that's what we'll do. We'll keep an eye on it and just get out of range if it happens again. See, that range is pretty big. Alright, and we are back again with attempt number 3. And since the first 2 attempts ended horribly with self-destruct coming from an explosion, let's see if we can try the clicking the points to get the key items. So if you do that, there are 3 of these triple question mark points. It's a little tricky because you cannot click these points with invisible up, and again the explosures will aggro via sight, so you have to time that up pretty well, and still may end up with some aggro, but we'll give it a shot and see. The first one is right here. Let's see, it gives you a fragment. Second one should be in this other room. Okay. And the third one is a little bit up the way and in the hall. And there's the third, so there's Banishing Gate number 3. Head to the west, and it's in this room here with the bomb, so also want to be pretty quick about it. And we have our bomb cool. Fantastic. And the third piece of the quest drops from a mob called an Exoray, and those are found in Crawler's Nest, which is right off of Rolandberry Fields, which is right off of Lower Jeuno. So come out to Lower Jeuno, and since we haven't been to Crawler's Nest yet, we're gonna just take a ride out that way. I'll show you where it is, and then we will run in and see if we can get the drop. So the entrance to Crawler's Nest is right down there by that Dietmann's Field on the map towards the southwest. So as we work our way down to the southwest corner of the map, again to this Dietmann's Field, it's about G12, then head southwest and should run into a cave, and that cave takes us into Crawler's Nest. And there it is. There's a book as soon as you zone in. If you keep coming south, southwest through that tunnel, no turns, just straight through, past a bunch of worker crawlers and bees, you get to this circular room, which over the years has been lovingly called the sack room. And I'm assuming that's because there are a couple of large pulsating sacks that hang from the ceiling there. It's a little bit of a maze in here, and so I recommend having the map up on one of the websites like BG Wiki, and that'll help you sort of find your way to where you're going. But basically there's a room with a bunch of Exorays in it. It also has one of the places to click, but again, I'm going to try to get this from drops just so I don't have to run around. I can just go in and kill a couple mobs, and hopefully we'll get some good luck there. So I'm going to head south. No, I'm going to head southwest. And the X-ray mode dropped on the first mob, so we'll head back to Jeuno and complete the quest. Okay, and back in Jeuno, Rulu Gardens, we get back to our quest giver Maat and just trade him the 3 items that he wanted, and that should finish it up for us. The level limit is now 55, which is good stuff. So again, all we have to do is get one more experience point to level to 51, and then Maat will give us G2, limit break 2, which would take our limit to 60. So gonna go do that, grab that real quick, and we'll knock that out as well. And something I should probably mention at this point, having reached level 51, I'm 499 experience points into the level. If you haven't had any unfortunate incidents at this point in Final Fantasy XI, you may not be aware, but when you die, you lose experience points. And the amount of loss is mitigated by a few things. Do you get a raise? Do you have to home point, etc.? Worst case being you die and have to home point, which is what would happen here. So a little risky to run around and do a quest with no what we call buffer into the level, but I think I'm gonna do it anyway. So we'll just risk it. So we should be able to get the quest and then make a run at G2, and hopefully we can get this one done without any fights. Okay, same quest giver Maat. And now that we're 51, he's going to ask us, do we want to increase our level cap yet again? Of course. So if you played this game previously, you may remember this quest G2 or LB2 was a trip to Boasting Glacier, and the whole point was fighting these 3 NM mobs and then clicking the question marks behind them. And yet I just mentioned doing this quest without any fights. Technically, it's possible to use mounts or get around the mobs or use your trust to hold them without actually having to fight or beat the NMs. So the whole point is the key items behind the NMs. So I'm going to try the sneaky approach and see if we can get around them without having to actually do any of the fighting. I definitely don't want to die and lose my level at this point. And if you're looking for the quest, it's called Atop the Highest Mountains. And if you have not been to Zarkabard, did I say Bosadine Glacier? Yeah, this is in Zarkabard. If you haven't been to Zark yet, you can get there through the Unity NPC. The Unity Warp brings you into the zone line to Bosadine Glacier, and I do not have the map to show you where these are at, so you'll want to look them up on BG Wiki, or possibly even purchase the map yourself before you come here. But I know where they're at, so I think the quickest one from the entrance is up here to the north. Alright, the first one should be in this little tunnel. Entrance is around J7. And this is the NM that we're going to try to avoid. There are three, all three of them begin with Boreal. It's the Boreal Tiger, Coeurl, and Hound. And here's the question mark that we want to click. So the goal is going to be to try to dismount when he isn't looking, and then click. And then remount again. Perfect. Now we'll head on to the next one. Cowardly? Maybe. Quick and efficient? Definitely. And if you don't want to go the cowardly easy route, you want to actually beat those NMs, they should be a pretty straightforward solo at around level 55 with a full party of trusts, or at least an extra 4 trusts. So go for it. So after avoiding the Coeurl mob and coming back out of this J7 tunnel, hug the right hand wall. And what you'll notice is that there is another level up above this level that we're at. And so if we keep following this wall on our right hand, we'll eventually come to a ramp that will take us up to that level. Right here. Head up the ramp. And then when we come up the ramp, it's just going to be a straight shot northeast into another very similar tunnel with another NM, the Boreal Tiger. Here's the tunnel around I6, and there's our tiger. Okay. So again, same strategy. Dismount, get our key item, and then mount up. Perfect. And then from the tiger, you basically head back out that tunnel, back down the ramp that brought us up to this upper level. And then once we come down that ramp, it's a straight shot sort of southwest. And along the way, there are a couple of points to grab. And I'll show you those as you come down this ramp. What you'll notice is that we're getting to the northern mob's stronghold, and so you start seeing their castle ramparts and other defenses that are up here. And around these, we have another tele crystal. Directly south of that crystal, well, really southeast, there's a survival guide. So having grabbed the book, what you do is you head west and can follow this wall on your left hand side. And eventually that turns us south, and there are two tunnels. As soon as we turn south, a left and a right. The right one is the right one, so that's how I remember that. And around G10 or so, we're going to enter this tunnel all the way south, and that brings us to our final NM and item click, which is the Boreal Hound, and this item here. So sneaky, sneaky. And we use the book to go back to Jeuno. Talking to Maat should wrap this up. Our level limit is now 60, and at this point I will mention again records of eminence. There are objectives under ROE for level cap increase, so you do not have to accept these ROEs before. You can do them after and still get credit for them, just like that. And the other thing I'll warn you about the ROE quests is that some of them can have some pretty big bonuses, some pretty big experience bonuses. As I was getting those, getting that book, I got attacked and killed a mob and got 1,500 experience points from it. So, you know, just keep in mind that if you're running around at level cap doing these things, you might end up missing out on some nice experience from an ROE quest. So just keep an eye on some of those. The easiest way to get there is to go to quest, go to current, and see where you're at. So for example, this total damage 2, we're getting pretty close to the end of that one, and that's 7,000 experience. That would be a shame to not be able to reap the full benefits of that. So keep an eye on those ROE quests. I am now going to do some more rank missions or unlock a couple more jobs depending on how much time I have left in the episode. So I will be right back. And we're back with a level 60 thief, and since the quest that will increase the level cap from 60 to 65 requires that we go to some pretty remote beastmen strongholds into specific locations, and those locations just happen to overlap with mission 4-1. It's easier to do those at the same time, and so what I'm going to do now is mission 3-1, 3-2, and 3-3, so that we can prep for rank 4. So depending on how long those 3 missions take, that might be all we can squeeze in for today's episode, but who knows. We're going to start off with mission 3-1, which is Infiltrate Davoi. Spent a little bit of our gil on a scorpion harness, but for accuracy 10 at this level, it's a really good piece, so I think it was worth it. But since I have a little bit of gil left over and haven't had to use any more sparks yet, I'll see what maps we need to grab. So 3-1 starts off at the gate guard, then we head in to click a door that gives us the cutscene with Prince Tryon. Alright, now we're supposed to head to Davoi. Little cutscene when we zoned in, and now we're supposed to find an NPC around H7, which is west of the entrance. And there he is. I assume that's pronounced Quimaricond? K-Maricond? Something of that nature. Anyway, here he is. Alright, once we have the report, we're just supposed to head back and click Prince Tryon's door again. Back in the chateau, we'll check the prince's door. So, Sandorian Mission 3-2 is titled The Crystal Spring, and it's a fairly simple one, assuming there are crystal baths on your auction house of your server. There were a few, I think maybe 8 or 9 on this server, and they were relatively cheap, I think maybe 1800 gil each. But if they are not available on the auction house, it does require having to fish them up. And that can be a bit of a pain, especially if you have not leveled fishing to this point. So, and we haven't done any crafting or gathering or anything like that since it's such an early game. So, if you can buy crystal bass on the auction house, this is a crazy easy mission. If not, then it can be a little bit more difficult. It is skippable. However, I don't want to skip any of the missions because I want to get all of the records of eminence quests, missions done so that we can get the bonus to capacity points for completing them all. So, again, the name is called The Crystal Spring. Okay, and then you either purchase or fish up the crystal bass and trade it back to the guard. And then we go back to the chateau for a cutscene or two. After the initial cutscene that we get when we enter, we're supposed to head over to about F7 and talk to the gardener Shalvatot. Alright, that concludes mission 3-2. Next up is 3-3, Appointment to Jeuno. After accepting 3-3, Appointment to Jeuno, we head back to the chateau. And in the chateau, after talking to Halver and then clicking the Great Hall door for a cutscene, we're supposed to head off to Rulud Gardens. So next up, we're headed to Delkfutt's Tower, and since we have the book already, I'll just teleport over that way. And the book brings us to level 1 of Lower Delkfutt's Tower. I took a quick break to edit the video up to this point and realized, as I was concerned about, that we're at 35 minutes and running. So since I like to keep these between 30 and 40 minutes, unfortunately I'm going to have to cut the video off here. So that means in the next episode what we'll do is I'll do the Delkfutt's Tower climb, all 10 floors to the top. We'll get the Delkfutt's key, complete mission 3-3, which will give us rank 4. Then we'll do the mission Magicite, which will give us rank 5, and we'll also do Whence the Wind Blows, which will take us to a level cap of 65. So next episode is going to be very, very exciting, jam-packed with quests and travels and adventures and all the things that we like to get out of Final Fantasy XI. So thank you for being with me. Really appreciate it, and we'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.